Congratulations on the documentary. I got a chance to watch a few of the episodes and really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much.
So first off, just give us a little bit of the background of how you got Pete to cooperate with this project.
Sure, it's a roundabout story, but there's a guy, a great funny character actor named Greg Grunberg. You can look him up. He's been in Lost and Heroes, a lot of different things. He was in The Fablemans. He's a big, huge baseball fan. His sons play college ball. He heard somehow that Pete was, it's possible that Pete could do an interview could do a documentary, that he'd be up for it. He doggedly kind of pursued it and got an agreement with Pete. Turns out Greg's best friend since like childhood is J.J. Abrams. So took it to Bad Robot. I had done some work with Glenn Zipper, another great producer. These guys, Glenn Zipper and Sean Stewart. Glenn has a deal with Bad Robot. Glenn called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I know you're a baseball fan. What do you think about Pete Rose?" And the first thing I said was, "Well, as a storyteller, love it. Seems like a fantastic story to dig into. But one, he'd have to agree to answer every question, or at least, nothing could be off the table." And so we had a Zoom with Pete. It was during COVID. It was 3.5 years ago. It was the surreal, crazy Zoom. Some crazy things happened on that Zoom, but
I
among
bet.
them, I said, "Pete, if we do this, I have to be clear that nothing is off the table. I can ask you anything." He's like, "You can ask me anything, anytime." And so I did, and that's how it started.
And what's it like? What was it like for you to sit there and ask him the question, and have him say, "I don't feel like I did anything wrong. I paid a big consequence." Like, what was that moment like for you?
It's not unexpected, I would say. If you have done any research on Pete, he has a rote way of kind of answering certain questions. So I knew some of those things would happen. I felt like we could get deeper than that or beyond that, and eventually we did, I felt. Um, but it takes a while. Pete is very, they're like grooves in a record that go in his head. When he is confronted with certain things, he punches back. He aggressively goes on offense to defend himself, and I knew that. And so I interviewed him probably, I want to say, more than 10 times easily. And these were not like 5-minute interviews. These were like 2-hour session, take a break, coffee up, get some food, 2.5 more hours. And I got a lot of the same answers. I got to be honest with you. I've got multiple versions of many, many answers. But I also I feel like I got closer to a truth that he believes. So.
Yeah, I'm just curious, as an interviewer, when you hear someone just giving you the same answer, like, how do you just wear them down? Like, how do you get
No,
them to try to say something different?
I think you can only do it so many times. Like there's certain days and certain moments where you're like, that's his answer. You're sticking with it. I think that's why it's important. I felt it was very important to make clear. If Pete is most famous for hitting a baseball, his second most famous act is lying, and he maintained a lie in the public space on Johnny Carson and the Today Show, that he didn't do anything wrong for more than a decade. And so when you have a lie, everything is thrown into question. And so I felt it was important to signal to the audience that I understand that he's an unreliable narrator. And so that means you need to understand that, whatever version of events comes out of his mouth may or may not be true. And that's what we're trying to get at. So it was fun.
It's a fascinating as a documentary subject. And what is it about him that you think made him such a great liar, essentially?
I don't know. That's I'm not a psychologist, so I think I do believe what Al Michaels said, which is I think that sometimes you begin to believe in your own lie. I think that certainly can be the case, and the details of what happened may become blurred in your mind because you've decided that something is a truth when it may not be. But I think he's a great personality, and he has a great energy. Even today, he's 83 years old. He can still be, very fun to talk to, and sometimes very tough. So he knows he's an entertainer. He was an entertainer when he played baseball. He felt like he was entertaining people, and I think he was more in more ways than a lot of players did. And he maintained that entertainment aspect of his identity through his life. I think he realized that if he can't be a part of baseball, that means he can't make money as a manager. He can't make money in ways that retired baseball players can. That he needs to make sure he's seen and he's heard. And so being an entertainer helps that. Saying provocative things helps that.
And so that kind of gets into one of the ideas in the documentary, that he sort of fancied himself as a mouthpiece for the common man. Talk a little bit about what you found there.
Well, I mean, that's his story, and I don't see any part of it that's untrue. He grew up under, very working class circumstances. His father was a big sports playing person, in terms of amateur leagues. Sports was a gigantic part of their lives. It was a gigantic part of his relationship with his father. I think that's all clear and undisputed. And so I think that he recognized early on that some of the fans who were watching him knew him in ways, knew his father, knew where he was from, knew the fields that he played on when he was a kid, knew his journey, right? And so it would be more entertaining if he succeeded. And so I definitely believe that that narrative is not crafted. That's his narrative of life.
How does Pete Rose fit into the modern sports landscape that heavily features sports gambling today?
That's the rub. That's the difficulty. And I think, I think initially Pete may have felt like, well, they're going to let me back in now because everyone gambles now. And he maybe conflates the public gambling and the major league sports leagues, all of them embracing gambling, as some sort of signal that gambling is okay. But gambling is not okay for anyone who's playing the games. And so when I think the culture changed and embraced gambling, I think initially he probably felt like, oh, this is a good thing. I'm going to get in now. I think it's actually done the reverse. I think it's probably made the leagues dig their heels in further. Now baseball's already thrown out another player for life just, 2 months ago, right? Well, it used to be only Pete. Now it's another guy, right? He was not a well-known face, but I think all the leagues are going to confront this more and more often because it's too easy to gamble. It's too easy for a young person who's incredibly skilled in sports and getting paid handsomely to not invest in their expertise.
And just final question, where does Pete now sit in relation to baseball generally? I mean, where do you think he lands?
That's the big question. My question is, what are we supposed to do with these guys? They're the talks around reinstatement, the movement towards some feeling of reinstatement, of which, I only know kind of whispers and like, what's possibly happening. They took a major hit when he went to Philadelphia, which we were there for. In the aftermath of Philadelphia, when he went on the field and he got all those cheers with the 1980 championship team, because of his interactions with a reporter that day and the mess of reporters that day, he became kind of the Pete who shoots himself in the foot. And suddenly there's no talk of of reinstatement. And in fact, we had to stop down the documentary for several months because we had, people lined up to be interviewed, and they all bowed out. He said, no, thanks. He becomes like kryptonite, right? And so, where he is on any given day in terms of the reinstatement is a mystery.
Hmm. Mark, I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much. It's a super interesting documentary, great subject that encompasses a lot of things way beyond sports.
Thank you very much. I'm happy for your interest.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for watching the You Interview channel. With over 3,000 original celebrity videos, we have one of the largest collections of celebrity interviews anywhere. So remember to like and comment on our videos and subscribe to the channel. If you want to get more involved, you can become a member of the channel. Membership has its perks. You can see exclusive celebrity videos and get the opportunity to ask our celebrity guests questions. We can't wait to hear from you.